Hello and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Friday with me, the author, Michael Campling, and we are reading Dial G for Gravity. Now this is episode, I think, 11, but at any rate we are on chapter 12. If you've just stumbled upon this, you probably ought to go back and find chapter 1. If you like this, I'll say this now as well as at the end, please do like, share, subscribe, comment, all those lovely things that people like to do. And at the moment, I would hate this to sort of founder for lack of support. So it'd be great to have lots more people watching and or listening, wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube or on michaelcampling.com. All good places to find out where all my readings are, which are several each week. So without further ado, I will crack on with, if I can get my glasses and my hat working together. Dial G for Gravity, a science fiction comedy read by the author Michael Campling. Chapter 12, Earth. It's almost 5, Brent said as he marched across his office and peered out through the window. I figured she'd have shown up by now. Vince looked up from the mound of paperwork that had been keeping him quiet all afternoon. Maybe she goes straight home after work. She's probably got a husband and 3 kids waiting for her. A woman like that, she could have any man she wanted. She's probably married to a top politician or some guy who made it big exploiting Globon tech. Oh, sure, he'll let her keep a little job at the UN just to give her a hobby, but she won't need the money. You're forgetting one thing, Vince. She walked into that crummy diner as a customer, the same as us. What was she doing, slumming it? And you're forgetting that she took one look at you and ran like hell, Vince countered. And she was quick to call the cops. That's a rich girl tactic if ever I saw one. Brent shook his head. I still say you're wrong. When I met her before, there was something she said. Hey, is your memory coming back? Brent waggled his hand in the air. Not really, just snippets here and there. There are still a lot of gaps, and there's a whole heap of stuff that I ought to remember, but none of it makes any sense to me. Like this sucker, for example. He strolled over to the battered grey filing cabinet and examined the container of water that sat atop it, peering down at the single black fish circling within. The creature was oddly fascinating. Its long trailing fins had a certain elegance as they curled in the water, but any charm that the fish might possess was more than outweighed by the huge eyes that swiveled and bulged on each side of its head. It was as if the fish's body contained a terrible pressure that had forced the eyes from their sockets. I mean, look at it. Are you sure it isn't yours? Positive. Someone gave it to you, a client. Man, I must have really pissed them off. I'd have preferred a plant, one of those big ones with all the holes in the leaves. He paused. Yes, I definitely have preferred a handful of cold, hard cash to this misshapen lump of slimy, wet fish. I call it Algernon, Vince put in. Algae for short, like algae, get it? Brent stared at him. Oh, forget it, Vince said defensively. It's just a joke. Almost, Brent admitted. Not quite. Despite his best intentions, his gaze went back to the fish, unaccountably drawn to its fluid motion as it glided through the murky water. He couldn't keep his eyes off the damn thing. The creature appeared to return the sentiment, gawping back at Brent with something like an accusation in its torpid stare. At least I feed the damn thing when you're not around, Vince grumbled. And by the way, you should get it a proper bowl, or better yet, an aquarium. It's freaky keeping it in that thing. Brent studied the fish's home, an upturned deep-sea diving helmet, its toughened glass visor providing a side view of Algernon's small world to anyone who might want to experience such a visual treat. I don't know. I think it adds a certain style to the office. Come to think of it, though, where the hell did I get a helmet like this? I'm not even sure if I can swim. I wish you'd see a doctor or something. You need some help to get your memory back. Apart from anything else, you're driving me crazy. He adopted a drawling tone in a passable imitation of his boss. Where's this? Where's that? Do I have a car? Where's my clean laundry? Do I smoke? Am I married? Do I prefer cats or dogs? He heaved a sigh. There's no end to it. You need to see a doctor. Doctors? What do they know? Brent let out a humorless laugh. Besides, I don't even know if I have medical insurance yet. And getting back a lifetime of memories, that could work out expensive. Anyway, why should I bother when it's all coming back by itself? Vince snorted. Yeah, it's so much more fun this way. He tutted under his breath. And before you ask again, the helmet was another gift from an old client. And when I say a gift, I mean a warning. I got quite a surprise when that damn thing came in through the window. Don't tell me. The window was closed at the time. Yeah, Vince went on. And the helmet was kind of heavy, especially as there was still someone's head inside it. Brent rubbed his jaw, thinking. He seemed to have a pretty strange clientele. It was a wonder he'd stayed in business this long. But then he caught the smirk sidling onto Vince's expression, and realization dawned. Okay, that was a joke. You caught me fair and square. Vince looked as though he was about to contradict him, but Brent didn't give him a chance. He didn't want to live in a world where the severed head arriving through the window would only be mentioned as an afterthought if it came up in conversation. Right now, there was only so much reality he could take. Maybe you should go home, Vince. Take the rest of the day off. I was supposed to finish work half an hour ago, Vince said, and he cocked his ear. Wait, someone's coming up the stairs. Sounds like someone in heels. Could be her. Brent straightened his jacket and affected a nonchalant pose, leaning against the filing cabinet, his arms folded. Algernon goggled at him, its eyeballs swiveling in a disdainful fashion. Shut up, Brent muttered. Everyone's a goddamn critic. His one-sided conversation was interrupted by a polite knock on the door, and Brent unfolded his arms and hurriedly smoothed down his unruly hair. Get the door on your way out, Vince. Oh, but I wanted to stay. This feels like we could be onto something big. Brent shook his head. What you need to remember, Vince, is Bolster's first law. And what's that? All conspiracy theories are the work of one man, Brent said with a smile. Now, you can stay if you want to, but it's on your own time. I'm running a business here, not an entertainment for young men of no noticeable talent. And you still have to get the door, all right? Fine. Vince scowled and trudged from his desk, but when he opened the door, his frown miraculously blossomed into a wide smile, his eyes gleaming with gladness. Ms. Richmond, what an absolute pleasure to see you again. Please do come in. Maisie stepped into the room, and the dreary office suddenly seemed to come alive with a golden glow. Gone was the damp stained ceiling, its bulging plaster lost in the playful warmth of dappled light. The sagging wallpaper vanished, its faded pattern replaced by a subtle patchwork of pastel hues. And to Brent, the threadbare carpet of indeterminate colour became the floor of the finest ballroom, its dark wooden boards gleaming with the delicate sheen of polished opulence. And as his heart soared, Brent stiffened his spine, and standing tall, he extended his arm in a welcoming gesture and said, How nice to see that you are here. He forced a smile, thinking, Goodbye, self-esteem. It was nice knowing you. But if Maisie could tell that he was cringing inside, she was gracious enough not to let it show. Instead, she favoured him with a generous smile. Mr. Bolster, we need to talk. Is now a good time? Now is a very good time, Brent replied, making a valiant effort to keep his tongue from flopping out of his mouth in the manner of an overheated Labrador. Vince, fetch Ms. Richmond a thing with legs to sit on. He caught Vince's frown and added, Please. Certainly, Mr. Bolster, Vince said with just the slightest roll of his eyes. My pleasure. He fetched the only spare chair, positioning it in the centre of the room, and when he brushed down the seat with the palm of his hand, it kicked up a small cloud of dust. Maisie went to sit down, but hesitated. Oh, is that a bloodstain? Certainly not, Vince replied. It's only an imperfection in the leather. I cleaned the blood off last week. Little one-liner there. Right, Maisie said slowly, but she sat down, tucking her skirt around her thighs as she did so, and arranging her long legs demurely beneath the chairs. Brent's racing pulse had been booming in his ears, but now it was suddenly absent, and he laid his hand on his chest as if searching for signs of life. Get a grip, he scolded himself, but it was no use. Out in the street or at a distance across a crowded restaurant, he'd known that Maisie Richmond could turn heads, stop traffic, and charm the birds from the sky. But at close quarters and in the confines of his cramped office, she cast a spell on him with such force that his very existence seemed knocked out of kilter, his senses reeling. Brent struggled to regain his composure, and as his heart resumed its regular rhythm, a host of mental images came back to him. Maisie emerging from deep shadows, Maisie in a deep blue dress, Maisie in a dark room, a room with bars at the door. Holy shit, he breathed. We were abducted. Meeting his startled gaze with an expression of cool certainty, Maisie nodded. Yes, it took me a while to figure it out too. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do about it. In fact, if I hadn't bumped into you earlier at the diner, I don't know if I'd have managed to work it out at all. So, in the diner, why did you run? Brent asked. I know you recognized me, so why did you take off? She bowed her head slightly. I'm sorry, you're right, I did recognize you. But I only knew that you belonged to a memory I'd buried. I didn't know how I knew you. I was sure that I'd been missing for several days, but as far as I was concerned, you might have been the one who'd kidnapped me or held me somewhere against my will. But you didn't say that to the cops, Brent argued. What can I say? Maisie raised her hands, then let them fall in her lap. When I saw you standing there, I somehow knew that you weren't a threat. I guess you seemed familiar, and I've started to recollect our previous encounter, but the full memory didn't come back to me until this afternoon. I get what you're saying, Vince put in. Brent hasn't been able to remember much since he went missing. An awful lot of his marbles went walkabout in those 10 days. Maisie gasped. You were gone for 10 days too? That's the same for me. 10 whole days just wiped out, as though they never happened. She hesitated, tears moistening her eyes. I'll admit it. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what might have happened to me in that time. I've got to find out. However bad it is, I have to know. Do you think you could help me? I mean, you are an investigator, and I'm sure you must be a good one. You certainly managed to track me down to that diner. A delicate chuckle slipped from her ruby lips. It's a trashy place, I know, but I kind of like it. I've no idea how you managed to find me so quickly. Actually, Vince began, but Brent talked over him, raising his voice. Thank you, Vince, but I'm sure Ms. Richmond understands that as a qualified investigator and a platinum-level member of the AGI, I couldn't possibly divulge the secrets of my trade. I suppose not, Maisie said. And please call me Maisie. After all, we're going to be working together. Brent wrinkled his nose. Not so much together. I work alone, unless you count Vince here, which, speaking personally, I try not to do. But don't get me wrong, I'm happy to take you on as a client. I'll have to check, but I think my usual daily rates are waived in this particular case, Vince interrupted, meeting Brent's glare with one of his own. Never let it be said that Bolster and Associate Investigations took advantage of someone who needed our help. Wait a minute. Brent's faculties were recovering quickly now, and he distinctly remembered a few important terms that he'd normally bandy about at this point in the proceedings. Not just the daily rates and extra charges for night work, but magical phrases like travel allowances, subsistence payments, and sundry expenditures. As the words crept into his mind, he greeted them like old friends, and in turn, they introduced him to their fellows. Uncategorized expenses, miscellaneous outgoings, and early completion bonuses. All of these things, he felt instinctively, were very close to his heart, and he should not be expected to abandon them in favour of the prudish little expression pro bono. I think it's actually a little bit long to finish this chapter in one go, and that feels like a reasonable place to stop. So I hope you enjoyed it so far, and I'll come on to part 2 next week for Science Fiction Friday. If you want to read ahead or read along, you can find Dial G for Gravity. And I have to say, it has been re-edited and republished since then, which is why this version has a different cover and why I think there was a bit of a glitch there. So sorry about that, but that should have been fixed, but I will double check. However, you can check yourself by finding it on Amazon. It's in Kindle Unlimited. If the ebook is also available at libraries, the paperback is available either on Amazon or at a little site called mcamplingbooks.com, where a copy can be printed and dispatched to you wherever you are. And that price might be cheaper, but there will be delivery charges, and it's printed in several different countries around the world, so it's not like it has to be printed and shipped from here. Okay, well, it's Friday. Hope you have a great weekend and look after yourselves. Lots of reading, I hope, lots of sci-fi, and take care. And I'll see you next time. Science Fiction Friday, or come along for Mystery Fiction Monday, or Time Travel Fiction Tuesday, or Thriller Fiction Thursday. I've been Michael Campling, you've been you, and bye for now.